Herzlich willkommen zu unserer ersten Veranstaltung 2026, zu unserem 25. Kinotalk, den wir jetzt schon machen. Ja, ist großartig, dass wir so viele heute sind. Wir haben jetzt 1 Stunde Zeit für das Gespräch und danach gibt es noch Zeit für euch, Fragen zu stellen, direkt Fragen zu stellen. Aber erstmal geht unser großer Dank an Focus Features für diese Kooperation. Und es ist uns wirklich eine riesengroße Ehre, dass wir heute den Regisseur Yorgos Lanthimos mit seinem Film BUGONIA zu Gast haben. Welcome. Und das Gespräch führt unser Präsident, der Regisseur Florian Gallenberger. Vielen Dank auch an dich. Und Florian, hiermit übergebe ich an dich.
Vielen Dank, Anne. A wonderful good evening to all of you in Germany and kind of a good morning to our guest in Los Angeles. Thank you for making this possible and welcome, Yorgos. Thank you so much.
Nice to be here. Well, kind of there.
So as I told you, we would like to talk about BUGONIA, but not only about the film as a product, but also about the process, about how you did it, what you did, and why you did this. And I would like to start with the screenplay, start with the beginning. In many of your other films, you have written or co-written the screenplay. In this case, it's the screenplay by Will Tracy. So could you tell us a little bit about what it was about the screenplay that made you think that's the movie that I want to make next? And how was that process? How did you take that decision?
Yeah, well, it was a surprise to me, to be fair, because I have never worked from a script that I didn't generate or at least worked on with the writer for years for most of my projects. And I was kind of taken by surprise because Ari Aster and Lars Knudsen were developing the script, and they just out of the blue, they just emailed me and said, we've been working on this script that we think, maybe you'd be interested in, and they sent it to me. And I've read a lot of scripts, and I've never had such an inclination to jump on something right away. But yeah, this script was it just felt very complete from the moment I read it, and it was exciting and funny and felt very relevant and contemporary, and yeah, I mean the themes, they were so vast and complex, and I just had a really good time reading it, which is rare. So yeah, I got really excited immediately, and I actually sent it the same night to Emma Stone, because we've been working together and have a very close relationship, and I trust her instincts as well. And I told her, like, I think this is like a good script. Like, for the first time, like, someone sent us a really good script. Should we just like read it and tell me what you think? And yeah, she read it immediately as well and went like, yeah, this is incredible, let's just do it. And of course I did spend some time with Will, just to there were certain things that I would approach differently or do differently, or like I have a sensibility tonally, and I just wanted to incorporate those things and just make the screenplay my own. But I didn't change anything of the essence of it or anything like that. It was like a very quick process with him, and he was very open to it as well. And we just had a couple of sessions, and he did a couple of passes of the script with some very particular, notes that I had. And yeah, so it felt like for the first time, it felt, well, I wouldn't say easy, but it was more straightforward, and it lasted for lesser time than all of the other projects.
Right. And
that part of it.
And how was it different to shoot a film that is not based on your own, or how is your relation to the screenplay different if you're not the writer of it Does it give you more freedom, or how is it different?
It wasn't, after, well, if you like something and then if you take time and work on it, it just became as the same as anything else that I had done. It's just that it was a shorter process to get there, because it was something that I already appreciated and understood. And Ari's instinct was correct, that I would be interested in it and it would be something that fitted my sensibility. So, after working on it also with Will, it just became the same, exactly the same as all of my other scripts. So, whatever that means, whether it's positive or negative, it just became another, film we're making. And, there's a lot of the same people that I work with, that I've worked with over, a few films now, and that creates some kind of continuity as well. And so it just felt Emma, Jesse, the actors. So it just didn't feel different in that way. That I didn't separate it from in any way, creatively, from something that I generated.
And how is your relation to the screenplay per se? Is the screenplay a Bible for you that needs to be followed, or are you someone who makes changes, last minute changes, if you think you have a better idea the night before you shoot it?
I like to feel quite confident about the script. I like to before start to film. I want to have a script that I feel is as perfect as it can be. But that doesn't mean that in the process we're not changing anything, or we're following it to the T. But I want to feel that before I start. I don't want to be in a situation where it's like, yeah, there's these things and these scenes that we'll figure them out. The rest of it feels good. We have to do it. Let's just go and do it. I just need to feel like, read the script and feel like this is solid, like this is good. Like if we made it exactly as it is, it would be great. But of course, you never make it the way that it is, because not just because you have different ideas, but because life has different ideas and the world has different ideas, and other people involved, and or the weather or whatever. So I try. I have over the years tried to allow this to happen more and welcome it in a way, like whatever we find in the process, and whatever creatively, whatever other people bring in and contribute, things that go differently. I try to see if it's actually better than what we had imagined. So I try to be open in certain things. Like a good example is that when we cast Aidan, who plays Dawn in the film, who's has never been in a film before. He's not a professional actor. He's neurodivergent, autistic. And that was something that I, had that wasn't written in the script. That was something that I kind of had in the back of my head reading the script. It felt that it could be someone like that. But so when we started casting, we worked with Jennifer Venditti, who's a great casting director and has done street casting for films, many times. So she's very experienced with that. And, I did tell her, especially when we had Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone in the other two parts, I told her, like, I think this part, needs to be someone, not an actor. It just doesn't feel right to me. And I'm thinking maybe, we need to look somewhere, like find someone who's neurodivergent or like has a very different sensibility so that this whole thing makes sense. And then when we found Aidan, which was actually pretty early in the process, we didn't cast him immediately, but it was like one of the first people that we discovered, when Jennifer went out looking for people, but then we just kept looking because we felt like, oh, it couldn't be so easy, like to find him like so early in the process. So we just kept looking and looking, but we always, went back to him. So when he came in, I just felt that we needed to go through the script with Will, the writer, to adapt the dialogue for him so that it feels so it doesn't feel forced on him, because he had such a special presence and sensibility, as I said, and it was just simplifying his dialogue, not just changing the character or anything like that. It's just like simplifying it so then he can be more present with his very special quality and offer that way. So that's an example of something that you feel the script was great, but you have this new element, and then you go like, okay, that doesn't now make sense, we need to like simplify it or do something different or whatever. So yes, the script again was really solid, but the process is always changes the film, and it shows you where to go, I think.
Right. Well, partially already answered the question that I wanted to ask next, which was about the casting. So, you told us about the process. Were you not, or was the studio not afraid how these three main parts are going to work together? Two really big stars and someone who has never been on screen. Weren't you also, or were you confident that this could work from the very beginning onwards? How did you make it work? Because it's a fantastic trio, and Aiden's performance is just breathtaking.
Yeah, well, I was definitely scared. I didn't know if it was going to work, but it's the kind of risk that it's worth everything. The studio, if they did, I'm sure they might have been. They never told me. They never,
Okay.
which I really appreciate. Like they never had any they never questioned it. Like when we showed them Aiden, they felt that it was the right thing to do, or at least that's what they said. And well, the same way that I said he's perfect for this, it's going to be, but inside I was like, I hope this is going to work. Maybe the same way they went like, yeah, he's great, and then they were like, oh my god, this is going to be a disaster. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, at least the way I see it, that's the kind of risk, and that it's worth taking, and that's why I love working, because I've always worked with non-professional actors in all of my films. It's just it has been in smaller parts most of the times, but this of course was like the third character in that trio, as you said. So yeah, it was really important to get it right. And we also we understood, by meeting Aiden and working with him, we understood that we had this wonderful woman, Elaine, who's an access coach, and has worked with neurodivergent people, and they have this group that they do things together, and we had her there on the set with him every day so that she would because he had never had an experience on a film set before, and he was like I think he turned 18 when we started filming.
Wow.
So he's young, and also never had such an experience before. So it was very helpful to have her there and walk through everything with him and every day, and help him learn his lines, and or helped during the process to communicate certain things of that we were trying to do. And so that was quite important. And he really bonded with Jesse properly. They went together and did some beekeeping. They had some beekeeping lessons, and cycling, and they actually, and now they're really good friends. So yeah, it was a very interesting experience, unlike anything I've had before.
I was wondering, did you do rehearsing before principal photography? Because I mean, these three characters are so well worked out, and they're especially for Jesse and Aiden, their characters are so weird, but at the same time so likable and so specific in their physicality, in how they speak and how they move and how they look. I guess that's not something that you just do from one moment to the other. Did you have a process to get them to that beforehand in rehearsing?
I mean, I usually try to have, time for rehearsals before it starts shooting. But it's never they're never very literal, like rehearsing, what the character sounds like or walks like, or how are you going to do the scene, or nothing like that. It's mostly, doing exercises, and I've said this many times. You probably all have heard about it if you're in the film industry. Um, um, so we have rehearsals, but this time around, because I've made too many films back to back, we didn't really have much time. And actually, during pre-production of Begonia, we had to also go, like, to present Kinds of Kindness, our previous film, in Cannes, and do some press for that. And we had very little time to prepare. So the good thing was that we had just made this film with Jesse and Emma before, so they had great chemistry, and we knew each other, and we had been through the process. There was a lot of trust, and knowing how it works. And Aiden, in any case, I thought that he shouldn't rehearse, because what's very what was valuable was just to have this outsider's energy, this very different sensibility, and I didn't want to spoil that. And because he's not a trained actor, I didn't think it was going to be good for him to just be going through
Right.
the scene. So we just did mostly practical stuff, like figure out how they look, did a lot of fittings. They did some, they learned some stuff when they needed to learn stuff about bees or whatever. Emma had to train quite a bit just for the initial sequences and all that stuff, to learn the choreography of all the fights and things. Like, there were a lot of fights and stunts that we had to rehearse and do. So we did those kind of things. And because we were a group that knew each other, and also, again, as I said before, like, a lot of the other people, like the DP, the AD that we worked together, the production designer, the costume designer, it's people, the producers are all people that we've worked together multiple times. And it was kind of quick to be able to find different ideas or solutions or whatever it is that we were trying to figure out. So yeah, we didn't have much time for rehearsals, but we were figuring out those practical things. And we did quite a few tests as well, like in the space. And we decided early on that we were going to shoot on VistaVision, but we were using this huge camera so that we could shoot sound with. So we just wanted to see if we could all fit in the basement with that huge camera, and what it is that we could do. So during fittings and makeup tests with the cream and the thing and all these things, we would just shoot some film as well with the camera. So it was just like a little camp of just doing different things, yeah, trying things out, and yeah, then off we went.
Yeah, that's kind of the question I wanted to ask, because I feel that, yeah, the casting is great, the performances are great, but these characters are also created by this crazy hairstyle, this amazing makeup, this outstanding costume, and especially also this house, the set design of this house, and whether it's from in the wide shot or on the in this kitchen living room floor, or then this spooky basement. And I find it striking how all these elements really blend in perfectly, and every aspect supports all the other aspects of the film. And I was wondering, how did you make sure that it would come together so nicely? So you already said a little bit about that, but I had the feeling like the costume designer really needed to know what is the house going to look like in order for everything to come together so perfectly.
Yeah, I mean that's a good thing about working, multiple times with the same people. So James Price, the production designer, we had worked together before, and Jennifer Johnson that did the costumes, we had worked together before, and they talked to each other as well. I mean, they hadn't worked together, the two of them, before, but I had worked with both of them before. And um it was just, first of all, it was like a very big decision that we built the entire house. We decided that we were not gonna really find, the perfect house anywhere, like to be able to use the basement and the interiors and the exterior. So early on, we decided that we needed to build the house. So we did that in the UK, actually, in the countryside in the UK. And we tried to build this, American farmhouse there. And, when we found the place, initially we thought that we were going to build the house, and then we're going to build the basement, somewhere else in a studio and, on a soundstage and work like that. But, when we found the place, and just went, if we're like building an actual house, why don't we like dig the ground as well and put in a basement? It was, very simple to me to go like, why don't we do that? And then we can shoot more in sequence. And, like if the weather is bad, we can go inside. If, like the schedule is going to be more flexible. And, everybody was like, okay, we're going to look into it. And of course, there were different permits that you have to get, like to start like digging in the ground and putting in a basement. But James found this incredible solution of utilizing these what do you call them, the metal containers, well, containers that that you have on tanker ships and that carry cargo. So
Yeah.
he dug out a basement, and he put these containers in so that we could have like the bones for the basement, so that
Right.
it would hold the house on top of it. So it was like a proper build of a house. We had to get permits from the council and build an actual house. So we just built the entire house. So then it just became this kind of obsessive thing that Jesse was coming in with ideas about the character, and Emily was coming in with ideas, and we found Aiden and Jennifer would, show pictures about the characters and the costumes, and then, James would fit into that. And in the end, when the whole thing was finished, you would go into the house and you could like open any drawer, any cupboard, and you'd find like things that we would never see. But like they went so obsessive about it that they had put things in the drawers and everywhere, and things that were like relevant to the story or to the character. Or Jesse would go and open something and go like, oh, like there's a paper clipping of
Right.
Michelle Fuller, Emily's character, doing that or whatever, or a picture of his mother's, just tucked behind somewhere that we would never see. So that helped, very much, the actors as well, and the whole atmosphere. And it was kind of similar with Emma's character world as well. Like her house, we kind of found and adapted, but the workplace was an empty space basically, and James built the offices there. So it was very few locations. So that's why I think we were able to just make them so detailed. And that kind of informed the characters, and the characters informed the space. So yeah, we were fortunate that we didn't have to. Well, there was a spaceship as well, if you've seen the film, which was a different story altogether. But yeah, which was weird. It was just like the last couple of days of the shoot, all of a sudden we're making a science fiction film and shooting miniatures and things. And but yeah, the few locations that we had, that was, you know, really helpful to be able to be very detailed about how we build them and how they tie to the characters and all of that.
And two questions now. So of all what you described now, how much of it is your vision that you have already beforehand based on the screenplay? Or how much is it the result of a mutual process of searching and of trying out? And the second question, who lives at the house now?
The house did stay up for a while, but now it's been, you know, it's been taken down because it's a hunting ground actually.
Oh, okay.
There. So yeah, they had to take it down. So what was the first question? Oh, if it's a good, it's no, I love collaborate. Like over the years, I've, you know, like, and again, like working with some of the same people or some new people, I've learned that it's, you know, it's very beneficial to trust people and, you know, enable them to, you know, feel free to contribute. That goes for the actors, but also, you know, everyone else on the in the team. And I, you know, I do have a vague idea, but like I never try. And also, if you know, if you see the script as well, you know, they're not extremely detailed in terms of um description of, you know, the spaces or the characters, or and if they are, I try to strip it out before everyone else gets involved, because I want them to bring their own, you know, ideas, and then I can filter that, you know, depending on, you know, what's in my head or what my, you know, general taste and tendency is. And but I do welcome people like coming in, you know, with ideas and things that I would have never thought about, and be surprised. And it also, you know, it also makes you, and again, I do the same thing with the actors. Like I try to maintain some distance as much as I can. Like if I had thought everything out, you know, and it wasn't exactly as I thought, or trying to achieve something very specific in my head, I think it would have been, you know, very limited. I try to, you know, to stay a little bit further away and be able to, you know, judge what feels right for the world or the film or the story, without being too attached to it from beforehand. So without, you know, losing sense of what works just because that's how I was thinking it, you know, like 2 years ago when we started,
Right.
you know, preparing or working on the script. So yeah, it's a collaboration. And yeah, we, some of the people, again, like, but we know each other really well. They, you know, they can come in with stuff which is more, you know, sorted out and know that I'll probably respond to, but at the same time, you know, we bring new people in and, you know, they go through the process. And that's exciting too, that, you know, that you have people that, you know, just do it for the first time, either actors or someone in the crew, and it kind of reinvigorates the whole, you know, process. But yeah, it's definitely a collaboration and not too, you know, I mean, I am specific in a way, but within that, I welcome a lot of ideas and contributions.
Right. And can we talk about the visual, let's say, concept? You just already mentioned that you have been shooting on VistaVision, which is kind of unusual in a way. What was the thinking behind that? And maybe you could also say something about breaking down the film. Are you doing this together with your DOP? Are you, you know, going to the hut in the forest for 2 weeks, sitting and you know, scribbling everything down? Do you have a storyboard? Do you have a shot list? How are you approaching that?
Yeah. So yeah, VistaVision apparently has become really popular lately. Um, So we first tried VistaVision on Poor Things. We did a lot of tests there, and but we hadn't found a camera at that point that we could sync sound. It was like only a very loud camera that we had found. So we just shot one sequence in Poor Things on VistaVision, and we really loved the look of it, but we couldn't utilize it more than that. But those images kind of stayed in our heads with Robbie, and I mean, we always have a preference to shoot on film anyway. So we really, like it stayed in our heads, and Robbie just kept asking around over time. And when the time came to do Bugonia, we were like, he discovered this camera that was, being basically repaired, these years from Poor Things to
Okay.
our time. And there's one in the world that exists, this bow cam, which is like a huge camera, which is relatively quiet. I mean, you could still hear it, but it's relatively quiet. You can shoot sound and you can remove it in post, or you can have other ambient sound and cover, the sound.
How big is it? I mean,
It's very big. It's like two big. It has two big round. It's like two pizza boxes, like two
Right.
huge pizza boxes, and then the camera and the lens. So it's pretty big. So yeah, we actually, and because you can actually hear it, the first time that we also met Aiden, the actor in Los Angeles, we did a test with this camera as well, and I brought in Emma and Jesse, during this test to make sure that they would be okay with it and it wouldn't throw them out, like hearing the camera in the background as they would, be performing. And the funny thing is, actually, they said they felt even better. They felt it's comforting to have this, sound and not dead silence, and have this like little pairing in the background. So we're like, great. So that's what we're doing, because the images look great, and it's a real commitment. So when you choose to work with this huge camera, it's a commitment. So in terms of the, cinematic language, you start, with a limitation in a way, but at the same time, it gives you, other things. So we knew that we couldn't be like moving, for example, the camera a lot. Like it wasn't going to be easy, to move the camera a lot. We chose it because we felt that it would be interesting to make this film that is basically, very dialogue heavy and very focused on these characters, to use a format, like a larger format that's almost like, like stills portraiture, like, photography, and really focus on those faces and those people, and, not necessarily describe the surroundings that often and that much. And kind of make them, kind of bigger than life, have this kind of elevated kind of presence because of the depth of the format, and the tonality of it and all that. So we knew that we were working with this camera. We worked with the noisy cameras as well, which are quite smaller. When we were outside and doing like tracking shots and things like that we didn't need the sound as well. So
Right.
we did use those as well, much less. So that set a certain kind of tone. It's like a huge thing that sits in the middle of the room. So you start thinking about the film, that way, and in those terms, and in terms of the portraits of the people, and that leads to a certain kind of decision making. We don't with Robbie, we just have a few discussions, and again, because we know each other really well, and we've made quite a few films together, we always try and do something relatively different to what we've done before, or build on the thing that we did before, and see how far we can get. So there's a few discussions in setting up certain rules. So one rule was like, we're using this camera and it's huge, and also it's going to take some time because reloading it was, like in the beginning it was like 10 minutes every time we had to reload,
Okay.
and we got into that rhythm, and everybody got into that rhythm, and it proved to be like quite almost like a meditative kind of thing. Also, everybody was much more focused. Was like, okay, the film's gonna roll out. Let's just be, concentrated, and because then we'll have to wait for 10 minutes to do another take. So there's all these things, but we always, no matter the style that we choose or the approach that we have, we just set certain rules. We like these lenses during the tests. We like, this camera. We like this thing. It's not going to be moving much. It's only going to be moving, when the actors are moving and when we're outside, and all of these things, which are basically limitations, but I think limitations that basically free you because you're not, in the moment lost, trying to figure out, oh, what should we do about this? What should we do about that? If you have like, limitations, it helps, with being creative and being very decisive about things. Um, and then what I like to do is just like go to the location and let the actors, figure out the scene and not rehearse it really, but like, okay, so where do you want to be? Are you going to be sitting there? Are you going to be, walking, whatever? So we just go through the scene with the actors, and then, we we just observe that with Robbie and go like, oh, maybe we should do a shot like this and a couple of shots of them, when they do this and that. And, there's a plan in the beginning, and then we start filming, and then we see how that goes, and then we see if we need to do something more. So uh, there's not a decision beforehand that we're gonna do these 6 shots here for the scene, and then there's this, which is a nightmare for our AD Haley. But again, we've worked with her a lot, so she doesn't know how many shots that we're gonna do each time. But that's the beauty of how we work is like being flexible, and also the other thing is, um, I, up until this point, I basically, most of my films were shot with, no lighting, or, unless it was like nights outside and, we needed something, but it was like all natural light and practical lights. And in a way, all the way to Poor Things, which was made all in a studio with these huge sets and everything, we kind of try to maintain that rule. Like, even if, of course, we lit, the whole set from, from the sound stage, from the ceilings and all that, we lit the entire set. So it was like being in on location. And then when we were inside, we would actually only use practicals and whatever light was coming from outside, the ceilings. So even if when we were using lights, we'd try to be not worried about that while we're filming. So that gives us the flexibility to just do that, what I mentioned before, like not having decide what the shots are and where you're looking at, and not deciding how many shots you need to do, because you see how it's going and how the performances are going, and if you need to do something different. So yeah, we just try to leave it quite open, and just every day figure it out, and having in the back of our heads those rules that we created before we started, sometimes breaking them just because you can't enforce your rules and everything. And also I kind of find it interesting to formally to just break the rules sometimes. So yeah, each day it's like we figure it out with the actors, decide some shots, then we need to see if we need any more shots. My AD every time we finish one setup, she goes like, any other shots for the scene? I go like, yeah, we're gonna do some more shots for the scene. Any idea how many? No, I don't know how many. Okay, that's fine. Like, let's, hear it.
I mean, as you describe it, it's funny. I feel that I wouldn't probably have the guts to do that. I would feel too much pressure for, you have to make sure that the process doesn't go totally the wrong direction. Don't you feel that? Are you totally easy about that, or?
No, of course I feel that, but at the same time, I don't I don't know how I would do it any other way. Like, it's the way I started, and the way that I was interested in it, and the way it made sense for me, and I just don't know how else I could do it. And it's sometimes it sounds like very relaxed and loose, but it's not. Like, we try to be very efficient, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that you can't be open. And it means that, okay, you're taking way more time to shoot this scene, you have to do, this other scene outside, the same day. So that you have to figure out an idea for the next scene. If you take too much time, on the first one, you'll have to come up with an idea to make that scene work, in a different way, quicker. So all of these things, you take these things in consideration. It's not like, oh, we'll take however time we need. No, actually, I'm very conscientious about that. Sorry, something just came up on my screen. I'm very conscientious about that, to the point of, sometimes, feeling compromised, with not getting exactly, what I want, and then knowing that we have to do this other scene, so move on. So yeah, I guess the description is it sounds a little bit relaxed, but it's not. It's just about not, designing before what you want to do, and try to be open about it. But, like, I work within the same, constrictions, as everybody else. We don't want to do overtime. Everybody freaks out if we do overtime. Like, we have a very, specific schedule. We have to, and we don't really, go over. And it's something that I feel really strongly about. It does bother me to feel like, oh, we're just, doing whatever we want. Like, we're spending all this money just because we just want to, take it easy. It's just sometimes, you just have to find where you spend more time, and where you need to, like, come up with something that will make you more efficient.
And the shooting process, how is that for you? Are you a person who wants to be on set very early, from the very beginning, or do you want them to prepare everything and then you join later? And are you very present and directing and giving instructions, or are you more quiet, or are you funny or polite, or how are you doing it?
I'm very funny. And polite. Yeah, no, I don't know. Like, that would be answered probably better by someone who's not me, and observes this kind of thing. But I think, well, and from what I've been told, because I'm very stressed, and I'm very anxious, and but people tell me that they don't really realize, like, I seem quite calm, but inside there's this whole storm going on. So, and as I said before, like, I really want to allow people to do their thing, and it's the same with actors. I just want them to, show me what they have in their heads and what they're bringing, and then I can observe that, and, like, try and help. And um I'm quite proficient technically, so I'm not so worried about the camera stuff and lenses and all those things. Like, I'm really it's really quick, how I can, decide things about that. So it's mostly about, like, allowing space for the actors to figure it out, and give them a chance to explore things, and create an atmosphere that it's all about, them. And it's all about them, as in there's too much pressure. It's, they have their space and it feels relaxed, and there's not like a lot of things going on. Oh, bring the camera, put the lights. There's none of that. There's like, and as I said before, because we're not like lighting every setup, like they do the scene and then we go like, okay, let's bring the camera here, put this lens, let's do it again. And it's like, it takes, if we haven't rolled out, it takes like 5 minutes. And so they don't leave and go to their trailers, and then you have to get them back. And so again, the actors that I've worked with, multiple times, they know that now, and they just, stick around. We change the position of the camera, we do another thing. So I think, and we try to have, it's like, that's a rule. We have to try to have the least amount of people possible on set. Like we also don't even have hair and makeup and doing checks with every shot and everything like that. Like they're somewhere far away. It's just like, myself, Robbie, the DP who also operates the camera, Olga, our focus puller, Haley, our AD, a boom operator, and if we have a grip or something. If we don't, there's not. So we just try to keep it very minimal. So, there's some kind of the atmosphere feels quite intimate, and the actors are, it's not like a circus around them. They have to like concentrate, despite that. It's just like not much going on, very few people do their thing. We can film whenever they're ready, whenever we're ready. So try and make it like nothing's happening. Not much is happening. We don't even say, action and things like that. Haley, our AD, has learned to go like, what did she say? She goes like, and go. She's very polite, very subtle. So the camera rolls and we go like, go whenever you're ready. Go. So we're trying to not make a big deal about like, shooting and stuff. So and the actors know when the camera is rolling anyway, so they can hear it. So they just go whenever they hear the film rolling.
Let's take a look at editing. I think you have worked with your editor on many, many, many films. So you are a team that is, you know each other. How are you, like during the shooting process? Are you seeing everything immediately, or are you waiting for an assembly from the editing room the next day, or you don't want to see it for some time? And then in the editing room, are you there very present all the time, hands-on, or step back and let him do his thing and then give notes?
Yeah, no, I don't want to watch anything because I can't stand it. I just go through the rashes like really quickly to make sure that, things are there and there's no technical problem. And I don't see anything unless there's a scene that I have doubts about whether we got what we needed. Then I might ask him to put it together and see if we need to, shoot anything else before we move from that location or anything like that. But if I'm not, uh, doubting a lot about something, because I doubt about everything, of course, all the time. But if it's not too specific and not too practical, I don't look at anything. And as you said, I've made all of my films with Blackfish. We call him. He's another Yorgos, so his surname translates in English as Blackfish, so we call him Blackfish just to not get confused. So I've made all of my films with him, and it has been like a long process of getting to know each other and understanding each other. And he loves working on his own, and he loves working 24 hours a day. Like he's nonstop. Like he's there in his computer all day. He just goes out for an hour walk and then he comes back in and he just works, day and night, weekends, whatever. Sometimes I have to like go somewhere for like a few days, or to promote the film or something. And he goes like, "Where are you gonna go? How are you not gonna have any notes? What I'm gonna do during the week?" So like, you'll figure out, you'll do something, you'll have some ideas yourself, or just not work, just go out. But he won't. So yeah, we know each other pretty well, and I know that he likes to be left alone. And I don't like being in the editing room, over his shoulder the whole time. And that is, also because we know each other, but also in general, because I feel, again, is that kind of thing where if I'm there telling him what to do, I could do it myself. It's not like that complicated. Like, you can edit the film yourself. But what you want is like his take on it, like see what he does with it, and where he gets. And the great thing with Blackfish is that he also now has understood my taste in terms of performances, which is really important. So when he shows me something, I kind of know that he's probably chosen the best take. And it's more about the structure of the editing of the scene, instead of like, oh, not this type of performance, like. So it's rare that I'll have to go in and look at every take that we've done for every scene just to find the right one, like when it works. And of course, I do remember what we've shot as well. And it's only when something is not working that we'll go in and look, other takes of the actors and all that stuff. And most of the times he's chosen the best take. Which is really valuable. Like, it's very, very valuable to have someone that can do that. And then he understands, because again, the films have been different over the years, and they have a different style, or will have a different approach for certain things. He quickly gets what we're doing by he watches the rushes throughout, and he starts editing. But I don't watch what he's doing, but he starts immediately editing as the rushes go in. So he understands what we're doing. And when he has an assembly, the last 2 years, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, go.
I used to watch an assembly, like when he put the whole film together, I would go and watch it, but it was so devastating to me every time. I would get so depressed that we changed it at some point. I think it was during when was it? The Killing of a Sacred Deer or something. Like, that I decided I'm not gonna watch an assembly anymore. I'm just gonna watch scene by scene, or like 3 scenes, the first 3 scenes of the film. Stop, give him notes, like tell him what's working, what's not working. Go away, let him do it. Watch it again. It's better. Okay. More notes. Go away. Let him do it again.
Right.
Okay. These 3 scenes seem to be now the best version that we can do. Let's go to the next 3 scenes. Okay. Let's look at that. So, and I actually learned that from my friends Josh and Ben Safdie, because when um I went to New York, and they were editing a film. I don't remember which one it was. Maybe Uncut Gems. And they showed me. They were like, "Come in, we're editing the film," and they were very excited. I will show you something, and they start playing the film from the beginning. I see a scene, second scene, it's amazing. I'm there, and go like, "Oh, they're gonna show me the whole film," and then like at this 6th scene or whatever, they stop and go like, that's great. I want to see more. Show me some more. And go like, that's all we have. That's that's where we are. I go like, haven't you put the whole thing together? I go like, no, we just do every scene the best version that we can, and then we move on. And I go like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. That's why you're so excited about your film, and like you don't know what's coming. You just focusing on these particular scene, try to make the best out of it, and then when you watch back, you have a better version. So I stopped doing that thing of seeing a very long slack edit of the film that has everything in it. And I would do it this way. And it is a little bit better. You're still depressed, but like, you've been through the scenes and the stuff like so many times that you kind of come to an acceptance that that's what it is, and that's the best that it can be. And also, it's not as bad as it would have been if you just saw the
Okay.
whole first assembly. So
Yeah.
it's better. It's better for your soul, I think, to do it that way.
It makes sense, absolutely. And tell me, the music. At what point are you bringing the music in? Is that something that I know colleagues who, even when on the screenplay level, they already fiddle around with music, or during the shoot, they have music also to play to the actors, or during the editing, and some others do it at the very end. How are you with the music?
So, when in my first few films, I didn't really have any music in terms of soundtrack. It was just like a couple of songs maybe, or something that was generated by the scene or something. Like it was almost sound within the scene, because I couldn't really figure out a way to use music in a way that I didn't feel it kind of lessened the scenes and the film and the tone and the story. But I like music, and I like music on films, but I just couldn't figure out, my way of doing it. And then I think it was The Lobster that the first time that I kind of figured out a way of using music in a way that it felt right to me, that it kind of added a different layer and a different texture, and sometimes it went against what was going on in the film or whatever. And that was a process of me like researching a lot of music and trying a lot of music during the edit. So I didn't have it in mind beforehand. I had maybe like the style of it or whatever, but it was a very meticulous process of like, try this, try that, cut it, edit it, like put these things together. So I started using music that way, and that lasted. And I tried to work with composers after doing that. And when I used like, if I used this kind of music as temp music, then you'd ask a composer to write something like it, and then it was never that, and I had spent so much time finding the exact music and sound so that it works with the scene, and then
Yeah,
it's just never worked. So
exactly.
I just kept using pre-existing music for The Lobster, The Favorite, The Killing of the Sacred Deer. I kind of did that while trying to find a composer, and it never worked. And I used the music that I had found um, until I discovered Jerskin, that he did Poor Things, Kinds of Kindness, and Bugonia now. So Jerskin had never done music for film. The only thing that he had done at that point was he had his first album as a solo artist, and look, it was a pop album. But I listened to it, and it was so diverse in terms of sound and melodies, and complex, and uh, both funny and interesting and kind of melodramatic as well. And it just felt like his sensibility kind of spoke to me in a way. And while I was listening to it, I went like, I wonder whether he'd be good to try writing music. And I was preparing Poor Things at the time. And so I met him, and then I realized that he's like studied classical music, and he plays the violin and the piano, and he comes from a family like that. And so he's classically trained. And I was like, great. And I just asked him, so do you want to try this? You'd never done this before. And so what we did for that film was, he started, I gave him the script, I gave him some visuals that we had, and he started writing music based on that, and based on what I told him I imagined the music might be. And he started doing demos, and from the first batch of demos that he sent me, I immediately knew that it was him. Like, it was it was so specific and special. And, first of all, like, it sounded amazing. Like, he did demos on his own, but he played the violin, and he like multiplied it, and the piano, and like he did all this work on his own just for the demos, and it sounded great. So we just kept doing that. Like, I would give him feedback again for our imaginary film, like we only had on a script and some, drawings of the sets and the costumes. And so I kept doing that, and he would come up back with other demos, and we would narrow down what kind of sound we liked and what kind of music we liked, and then I would just go, well, maybe we need something faster for some scenes. I don't know, like they all seem to be in this kind of tempo. Like, maybe make something faster, and then maybe make something more emotional for a scene. We'll probably need something more emotional, and then he would do that. So by the time we started filming, I had this music library. So I basically started working, the same way that I did before with, music that I found. I had this library that was made specifically for this film. And then during the editing, I would, use the pieces that he wrote. And of course, we would edit them again because they weren't, composed for specifically for a scene. So we would edit them roughly, and then he would rework them. But, it worked really well. And we basically used, well, first of all, most of the music that he wrote. And we actually didn't need anything else after we finished the editing of the film. There was only one scene, I think, that he needed to come up with something new, and it wasn't in the library. And actually, it proved to be the most difficult thing to do, because at that point, he had watched the film, and he had watched the scene, and he was like trying to write music for this particular scene. And of course, it was exactly the thing I don't like about music, which was like kind of describing the scene and going with the scene and feeling. I was like, yeah, this. And it was the most difficult thing that we did for Poor Thing. So we worked the same way for the Kinds of Kindness. Like, I gave him the script, like he wrote the music. We decided it's only going to be piano and choir this time. It's going to be very different. He wrote, the music. I gave him feedback, and then, I used it again during the editing. Sometimes I play it on set as well if we have music, and see how it works for certain scenes, or just, have the actors listen to it and get into a mood or whatever. It doesn't mean that I'm going to use the specific piece later in the edit. But then with Bugonia, I decided to push it even further, and I actually didn't give him the script. Like, as we were finishing Kinds of Kindness, and I knew I was going to make Bugonia, I just went to him and go like, so we're going to be making this film really soon. You need to come up with a score, and it needs to be like really big, like a big orchestra. And I'm gonna just give you like 3 keywords, and you just, get to work with it. And
What were the three keywords? What were the
and he was
keywords?
like, okay, like, what are the keywords? He'd say.
Yeah.
So I just told him bees, basement, spaceship. And then I told him, and Emma's gonna be bold in the film. So that's all he had. And he was like, okay, fine, I'm just gonna go. And I knew that I wanted something, bigger and orchestral and, melodramatic for this film. So I went like, and go big, don't hold back, just go big orchestra. And he goes, okay. And then, he started writing all this music without knowing anything. I also, because, by that time he knew, the actors or the other people that we were working together. I told him, you can't speak to anyone about what the film is. You can't know. It's a remake. You can't watch the original. You must not know anything about this film until you finish with composing the music. And he did that. He's like a very good student, and he didn't talk to anyone. He composed the whole thing. When we were happy with it, I went like, okay, now you can read the script. And yeah, he visited set. He's one of the aliens as well. He at the end of the film. So this time around, yeah, it worked this way because I just find it, I guess it was a long answer to it, but It was a long process, to figure out the way to use music and work with someone, and see that even if he doesn't know anything about it, usually it's much more useful and more creative to just he just went into this rabbit holes of researching about bees and honey and planets and things and spaceships and materiality, and it gave him ideas about sound and things, so it was way more freeing for him. And then by this time we knew each other quite well, so that I could tell him, yeah, but more this way, not that way, and I could guide him without him really knowing what the film is, and just create something that didn't feel too prescribed, about the film.
Yorgos, I think I have one last short question before we are opening up for the questions from our
Die
audience.
Zeit rennt uns davon, ja.
Yeah. Just because you also mentioned it, doubt and anxiety in the process. How are you dealing with it? What role does it play in the process?
Well, medication for sure is quite important. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if everybody's like that, but I don't enjoy, like, I wish that I'd enjoy more, what I'm doing, and to not let anxiety about, like, if you can achieve what you want to achieve, let it, corrode the entire process. But, like, I've always tried, and I can never escape it. I'm an anxious person. Like, I don't necessarily have the greatest regard for what it is that I can achieve, or whatever that is. I guess it helps with trying more, and working harder, and learn lessons, and then from one film to the next, try and do certain things better, find people that are people to keep, and discard the people that because it's like it's a team thing. Like, it's not just as an individual you can't achieve anything great in cinema, so you need to have people around you that can provide a certain kind of comfort, so that I can ease that anxiety, and that you're in it together. At least you're not fighting anyone. It's just you're fighting against either practical things or luck or whatever, or but just try and have good people around you, and try for the best. I don't think it's necessarily helpful to be that anxious. I actually, that's why I've announced that I want to take a break, because I've made like these 3 films back to back without, as I mentioned before, we were like prepping Bugonia, and we were going around, promoting Kinds of Kindness, and that I don't feel that. At some point I was going like, yeah, it's great, like, we're making all these films, and it's a palate cleanser. I'm talking about this film while I'm making this other film. And it's like, if you do it once, you do it twice, and then it's like, I'm gonna go crazy. This is insane. So yeah, I definitely need to take some time, and just find the joy again, and try and just realize it's just film. Like, we're making films. There are people that are doing crazy jobs that have actual anxiety and impact on others people's lives. So chill. It's just a film. Like, you're gonna be fine. But it's difficult. It's weird. It's difficult, and but I'm gonna try again. I'm I'm gonna try a reset, or take some time off, and find the joy again.
Great. So, Anne, now we hand over to questions from the audience.
Ja, Paul ist der Erste. Genau, hebt einfach eure digitale Hand, dann erscheint ihr oben und wir pinnen euch groß. Paul Rischer.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm interested in the sound of the movie and enjoyed that very much, the soundscape of the movie. And I'm interested in how's your collaboration with your sound designer, and is it does he also sound design to the script, or does he come in later?
Yeah, Johnny Byrne is someone also that I've made quite a few films with since The Lobster. So we know each other quite well. I bring him in early on. I give him the script, and I also try to involve him in selecting who the sound person during production is going to be, who's going to be doing sound on set, so they can work together closely. So yeah, he's a great sound designer, and each time it's kind of different with him as well. Like because we try to do certain things in a slightly different way. Well, this time he was complaining a lot about the noise of the camera. I actually brought him on the test of the VistaVision camera as well, and he was like, "It's fine. I'm going to dial it out. It's not that bad." But then when we started filming in a basement and the walls were like this, the sound started like reverberating everywhere, and it was way louder. So he was like, "This camera is really loud." I go like, "You listen to it. Like it's I brought you there." Anyway, so he had to fight a lot with that. That was one thing for this film. And I mean, he tells the story like, because I also let him do a first pass on his own, and we know each other, and he knows what I like, and I let him do it, and then I go to. Usually, he plays it to me in a room that we're going to be mixing the first, because we do some work while we're editing, and we're doing screenings and stuff. So there's some stuff in there already, but yeah, when he has done some work, we go to a mixing room and we hear it properly, listen to it properly.
Great.
And this time around, like he thought like, oh, it's a science fiction movie, I'm gonna do all these kind of interesting sounds from the from the refrigerator and the lamps and the things, and I
You
go
like
the first.
spaceshipy in a way in the basement.
Yeah, but the first time I listened to it, it was like way too much. It was like everywhere, and it was extremely, over the top, and go like, what the hell is this? Like, what's going on here? Like, there are all these things. Like, they're talking. It's a dialogue movie. Like, it needs to be like really simple and quiet. And he goes like, oh, I thought I was gonna hide the sound of the camera with all these sounds, but I guess we have to do it a different way. I go like, yeah. But I mean, he kept that idea, like he played around a lot with, and he likes to do that anyway. Like in general, like the fridge sound is not necessarily a fridge sound. It's like the humming of a trimmer or something, or and he tweaks the tone of it a lot, and or he would tune he also has worked all of the times that I worked with Jerskin, he's worked with his music as well, so they work closely together as well. So sometimes, for example, the sound of the bees would interfere with music, so he would tune the bees so that they would be in the same kind of world with Jerskin's music. And he fiddles a lot with tonality, and but the thing is, he does all these things, and in the beginning it felt like really overwhelming, and then we understood that we needed to dial all that down, and it would still be there, and it would still work the same way that you mentioned, but it would be much more subtle despite all this work, and it would be more tuned in to the voices, to the music, to whatever else was going on, instead of like fighting it. So yeah, he did a lot of intricate work around finding the right tonality for the sounds, for its soundscape. And he also came up with the aliens language as well. Like that was on the script, it was written in English, and then the actors at some point came to me and were like, "So what are we saying here? It says like alien speaking." And I go like, "Oh yeah, we have to deal with that at some point." And then I just asked Emma to record the lines in English, and then we sent it to Johnny, and I went, "Okay, here's the dialogue in English. Just maybe take the syllables and move them around and make different words, new words, and come up with something, come up with a language, so then the actors can learn what you made and they can do it live on set." So he played around with the syllables and created these words, and he has a great sense of humor as well. So like he would try and create these words that sounded like something, and he would repeat them when they said the same word and all that. And yeah, he sent it back to us, and it sounded great. And we had Emma and Jima, who's the other alien who speaks, who's actually our stills photographer, on-set photographer, and I've worked with him plenty of times as well. And it was his first time being in a film, so for 2 weeks before he had to shoot this scene, he stopped taking pictures, and he was like looking at this thing the whole day and trying to learn this alien language and going like, and I was going like, "Jim, are you gonna not take any pictures?" I go like, "This is very hard. This is very hard to learn." I go like, okay. So yeah, John is brilliant too, and yeah, he's also like someone like who likes to show me stuff, and which is something that I have as well. Like we didn't mention that, but during the editing, when I show the film, when I show a cut to some people, usually some friends or like people that I know, as we're progressing, what's important for me is to not what they tell me in the notes that they might give me or their opinion. It's way more important how I feel while they're watching it, and how I feel at certain moments, if I feel uncomfortable that they're watching this thing, or if I feel okay or whatever. So it's important for me to be there and sense that about me, and I understand then what needs work, and what works for me. And Johnny is kind of similar, so he does all this work, and then we go to the mixing room and he shows me, and he kind of, most of the time, he turns around and he goes like, "That's not good. That we'll change that. Don't worry about that." Like without me saying anything. And yeah, this needs to be like, yeah, I'll put that down and I'll do it. So he's like that as well. Like he senses as well, when he shares what he's done with me, he senses what works for the film or not.
Yorgos, the time is running out. We only have time
Okay,
for
I'm sorry,
one more
I'm
question.
taking a long time. Very much.
Nina, magst du fragen?
Hi, I make it quick. I want to know something about the collaboration between you and Emma. I mean, I think this is very special, and I want to know, is she collaborating with the script when you write a script? Are you talking much when you don't film together? Can you describe a little bit the materials of your relationship?
Yeah, well, over the years we've become very close, and even when The Favorite was the first film that we did together, but it took some time until we started filming. So even before we got along, and we spent time together, and but not necessarily discussing the film, just having fun and getting along and understanding each other, and trusting each other. And so after we finished The Favorite, it was like very obvious to both of us that we liked to work with each other, and we just kept doing it. So yeah, I tried to involve her early on, and the last few films has been a producer on them as well, and that's not a coincidence. Like I really appreciate her instincts and her her views on things, and she puts on a very different hat when she's a producer than when she's an actor. And there's a lot of time when we were prepping for her to be involved, and she had a natural curiosity from the beginning when we started working together. So that's why I thought, like, in Poor Things, I think, was the first film that she should be a producer because, you know, she wanted to be involved in everything, like at the sets, the costumes, the photography, the thing, what it looks like. I go like, well, why don't you just be a producer and, you know, officially be across everything, and or, you know, how the film is going to be promoted and shared with the world and all that stuff. So yes, I enrolled for, you know, really early on. We seem to be attracted to the same kind of material. You know, it's just one of those things. It's very easy to work together. We don't, you know, we don't have to say too much. It's just like, again, like with Johnny, and, you know, like she doesn't take a look at her. She goes like, "Hey, I know what it is. I'll do it." And, you know, it's that kind of you know, comforts of, you know, knowing someone and getting along and working together, that you don't need to spend too much energy, you know, to, you know, reach a certain place. And also this trust kind of enables us to be more bold, you know, like just try things, and, you know, we know that we have each other's back, and she can trust me and with what I'm going to do, and I can trust her with what she's going to bring. It's not going to be about her. It's just going to be about this thing that we're making and trying to find the best, you know, version of it. And yeah, it's just great. I mean, that's why we just keep doing it. And, you know, she's very funny, so, and light as a person, and, you know, even when things are, you know, sometimes difficult and tough, she's like, you know, like a person that can really get everybody through things, like just bring in the lighter aspect of it, and, you know, find solutions at the same time, just because she can, you know, relieve the pressure. So yeah, it's just great to work with her, and as an actor, the producer, and as a very good friend.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yorgos, and thank you so much, Florian.
Thank you.
I think we need to wrap this up now. Unfortunately, time is running out, and yeah.
I'm sorry, I was too many long
No.
answers.
Thank you, Yorgos. It was great. Really, thank you for sharing
Thank
all
you
these
for
thoughts.
coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for this film, and thank you for tonight.
Entschuldige, Carlotta, Jorgos muss leider los. Vielen Dank, dass ihr alle da wart.
Bye,
Und
bye.
euch einen schönen Abend und passt auf mit dem Schnee. Bleibt zu Hause.
Bye bye.
Thank you,
Auf
Jorgos.
Wiedersehen.
Wiedersehen.